All right, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to this Buffalo Sewer Authority info session for upcoming Buffalo Sewer capital projects and solicitations for both professional services and construction contracts. My name is Walt Walker. I'm the program director on the consultant side for the Queen City Clean Waters program and capital projects program management contract, all the same thing here. We hope this will be the first of many open house events with the number of work with the amount of work that we have happening over the next decade. We excitedly had a brand media launch kickoff at Freedom Park earlier this morning with BSA General Manager OJ McFoy, the acting mayor Chris Scanlon. So a great kickoff to what's ahead for Queen City Clean Waters. And Angela, I see your hands up. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, it was an accident.
All right, no problem. All right, so the agenda will have a few opening remarks from Rosie of BSA, talking a bit about the Queen City Clean Waters overview, sharing the upcoming capital projects, getting into some of the expectations as it relates to RFPs and contracts, talking about meaningful engagement with our contracting community, particularly with our disadvantaged minority woman business enterprises, the expectations for that engagement, and for those looking to start a small business here in City of Buffalo and Erie County, sharing some of the steps to get certified so that you're able to participate in this work and the work opportunities. We'll talk about the upcoming community benefits program that'll be a requirement for many of the future Buffalo Sewer Authority contracts. And then close out with feedback and Q&A. We do have the chat and Q&A feature that are available with over 105 people currently on this call. I expect more to be coming in. We have over 140 folks that registered, which is super exciting. Please use that chat and Q&A function. But at the end, we'll also provide folks the opportunity to go off mute and ask questions as well. But as questions, comments come along, please throw those in the chat and Q&A, and I will address that at the end of the formal presentation. Okay, so just a few friendly reminders, housekeeping items. This is an online meeting. Please keep your microphones muted. As I just mentioned, utilize the chat feature and Q&A feature. Either one works. This meeting will be recorded. It is being recorded right now. After this meeting is complete, we'll provide a recording of this meeting, a PDF of the slide deck. So if any of your colleagues have missed this, not to worry, the recording and the meeting materials will be available. And to those that have registered, we will also distribute the registration list with names, contact, interest, all the results from the RSVP form that you filled out will be distributed so that you can go out and network with each other. That's certainly a big goal of this, not just to share the information on the upcoming opportunities, but for you to start building your teams and to network with your contracting community. And then, as I mentioned, closed captioning is available. If you click on the More button at the top of the bar, there should be a closed captioning feature available for those that would like to have that feature. All right, so the folks that'll be speaking in the formal part of this presentation are myself, as I introduced, Walt Walker, Program Director, working with TY Lin and Greeley Hansen Water Solutions, TY Lin for short. Also on the call is one of our partner consultants on the team, also a local women business enterprise, Jamie Davidson from JM Davidson Engineering, who's our collections system advisor. And then Rosaline Nogle, whom I'll turn it over to in a moment, Principal Sanitary Engineer overseeing the Queen City Clean Waters program.
Thank you, Walt. Again, Rosaline Nogle, and most of you have met me, and you know me as Rosie. I am the chief engineer at Buffalo Sewer Authority, and as Walt mentioned this morning, we announced our over $1 billion investment in the city of Buffalo to address sanitary sewer or combined sewer overflows throughout the city of Buffalo. So with that, that's $1 billion right there, but there's also additional work that needs to be done to bring our 1938 facility and our collection system that dates back to the 1840s up to modern standards. And so there is quite a bit of work to get done. There's going to be 50 and more sites all across the city of Buffalo over the next 15 years. And so there is a lot of work to be done for consultants. There's a lot of work to be done for contractors. We are working with T.Y. Lin and Arcadis and J.M. Davidson as some of our leads on this work, but there is a lot more work to get done. And we will be looking for minority, women-owned businesses and disadvantaged businesses in general to support us in this work, in addition to other contractors. Much of the work is going to be funded through the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation through grants, zero to low interest loans, through our existing environmental impact bond, particular to our green infrastructure projects, and just generally through the BSA capital budget. With all of those programs, there will be disadvantaged business, minority business, and women-owned business goals incorporated. But again, there will also be a lot of work to take on. And so there will be continuation of our real-time control, smart sewer, and sewer improvement modifications as we've been doing over the past decade, more green infrastructure as we've been doing over the past decade, further Bird Island treatment facility upgrades as we've begun with our secondary treatment project that is ongoing now. And then we are also going to be entering into the world of combined sewer offline storage in the next few years. We've already started last night with a seeker scoping session on a project on Delavan, and we look forward to sharing more information about many of those projects. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to you, Walt.
Thank you, Rosie. A great overview. We've broken up for this next section, upcoming projects, into two sections. One on the upcoming collection systems projects, and one section on the upcoming facility and Bird Island projects. So for this segment on the collection systems projects, I'm going to turn it over to Jamie. Welcome, Jamie.
Thanks, Walt. Yes, so the first round of projects that will be coming up in 2025 for construction are a series of modifications to existing sewer patrol points in Buffalo Sewer's collection system. I think a lot of people on this call are familiar with Buffalo Sewer, but if you're not, a sewer patrol point is really a regulator structure. So what that does is in wet weather, base flow goes through the structure. It's considered an underflow pipe. And as wet weather events happen and the water rises, it will overflow an overflow weir in the structure and then go out a combined sewer overflow. So the point of these projects is really to try to maximize the amount of wet weather flow that is getting to the treatment plant for treatment and minimize the amount of water that is getting out to the river and to the adjacent water bodies untreated. So these projects, there's 8 different sites in this list of projects here. As you can see, just from the dollar values that are provided, 2 of these construction projects are fairly substantial, and I'll get into a little more detail on those in just a minute. And then the remaining 6 sites have been grouped into one collective project that will be bid just to try to put it in a good grouping so that there is enough work to be done and make it profitable for the contractors to get involved. So next slide. So the first project that we are working on design for is the Colorado and Scajaquada SPP 337. This project is probably the most substantial of the sewer patrol point modification. It is a very constrained site, and we are trying to increase the amount of flow that's going into this SPP, and that will ultimately be making it to the Scajaquada Tunnel. So we will be putting in a new diversion chamber at the sewer patrol point, and also a new drop shaft that's going to be about 50 to 55 feet deep, and it needs to it will be designed to accommodate a flow of about 48 MGD. So that'll give you an idea of how substantial that is. That project, along with all of these projects, is expected to come out for bid in hopefully in Q3, potentially Q4 of 2025. So the next site is the Genesee site. Similar to Colorado, this one will also involve a drop shaft. We will be doing some modifications to the actual sewer patrol point, which include raising the overflow weir and installing some additional underflow pipe that is 18 inches in diameter. Ultimately, this will move into a new drop shaft that will be located in Schiller Park, which is the green area shown there. Again, this drop shaft is expected to be 50 to 55 feet deep. This one is a little bit smaller than the previous, but it's going to accommodate about 26 MGD. So that'll also give you an idea of the size of that that will be coming up. And then the remaining 6 projects are really a series of weir modifications and additional improvements. This one at Bailey and Kearns is going to enlarge the underflow orifice. And in addition to doing that, we are going to both raise and lengthen the weir. Very likely there will be a serpentine style weir that will be installed in this location. The next one is Humboldt and Lark. This one is SPP 336B. This might be the most one of the more simpler of the projects. This is just removing an underflow orifice plate and raising the existing weir. This modification at Humboldt and Delavan, in addition to raising an overflow weir, actually involves installation of a new junction chamber to facilitate an upsized pipe. So what we're going to be doing is upsizing the existing underflow pipe, which is about 1,000 linear feet of 24-inch sewer, and we're upsizing it to 36-inch. So this one will be more substantial of the SPP modification projects in this contract. And then the last grouping, there's 3 different sites all on Michigan that will include weir raising. And with that, I will hand it back to Walt.
Thank you, Jamie. All right, so moving on to facility and offline storage projects. We have Sydney and Lark and Edison Martha offline storage. Those are going to be significant projects happening in the city. Still in the process of conceptual design. Our program team will be taking it to approximately 30% design, getting the concepts hashed out, at which point they'll be released as an RFP for another design consultant to take that to the finish line. Breckenridge Street CSO project design underway. Bid advertisement will be occurring in Q1 of next year. And then we have several other large facility projects that I'll talk about in the upcoming slides. All right, first one, another offline storage project at Sydney and Lark, 3.2 million gallon underground tank. Just a stone's throw away from the Kensington Expressway. The Sewer Authority is in the process of negotiating ownership of that lot, but the goal is to dewater via gravity to the Scajaquada Tunnel interceptor, and the RFP release date for that is by the end of this year. Edison and Martha offline storage tank right by Roosevelt Park. Park, and a school lot, a 2.6 million gallon buried concrete tank, not as deep as the Sydney and Lark, but significantly wider, which will feature tank inlet and outlet sewers. Breckenridge Street CSO project. This is a project that was reimagined from traditional real-time controls for those that are aware of some of the previous real-time controls projects. But this is going to, after some alternative analysis, now be converted into a CSO sewer line project. Occurring between Breckenridge Street and West Ave, all the way to Lafayette and West Ave. Goal of this project is to replace and reverse the slope of an old brick Breckenridge Street sewer, over 100 plus years old, to discharge the new sewer on West Ave. The size of this line will be approximately 30-inch in diameter, RCP pipe as of now. And the new West Ave line will connect to a drop pipe manhole structure at the Skajacro tunnel. So in addition to the deep excavation for the CSO pipe, there'll also be this deep manhole structure. So a lot of excavation and potential dewatering. All right, South Buffalo Pump Station. South Buffalo Pump Station by the Buffalo River, off the intersection of Bailey and Old Bailey Avenue, which is right south of the intersection of Elk and Bailey. Number of rehabilitation tasks that are comprised under this project: pump rehab, seawater improvements, HVAC system replacement, an extensive structural and architectural rehabilitations, enhanced equipment removal, and then supporting plumbing, site, and electrical work. I would say of the several pump stations throughout Buffalo sewers collection systems, South Buffalo is one of the largest. So be on the lookout for that for construction bid advertisement in mid to late 2025. And now moving over to the Bird Island facility, right next to Freedom Park, where we had the brand launch kickoff earlier this morning. For those that are not aware of the Bird Island treatment facility, went into operation in 1938. Initially served just for primary treatment processes. Then the secondary treatment facilities, including the settled wastewater station, which is on the right side, was added in the late 70s to comply with the Clean Water Act, and that became operational in the early 1980s. So for both the raw wastewater and settled wastewater pump stations, the work for this for each includes the following: mechanical upgrades, including pump and valve rehab and the vacuum priming system, motor rehab for the pumps, upgrades to the instrumentation and controls, and then some structural and architectural repairs. I do want to note that as we've done some conditions assessments for both of these facilities at Bird Island, we're looking at it in three different phases. Phase one, immediate repairs, those items that are in need of immediate repairs to prevent any failures and continue and to help continue to operate these facilities. If you're looking at the map of this facility moving left and right, that is the process of incoming flow through treatment on the right side, which would be the north end. And so phase one and phase two are the immediate and short-term upgrades needed. In the future, there'll be a phase three for some long-term repairs. But under the capital plan, we're looking at putting out phase one and phase two for those immediate and short-term needs in early to mid 2025. And now on to the primary treatment renovation. Some of you may have attended the open house info session in January of this year, prior to the bid advertisement of Contract A and Contract B of the primary treatment renovation. We did advertise contracts A and B in Q1 of this year. An award was made to Contract A, but then ultimately it was decided to pause and rebid Contract B to next year. So Contract A focusing on the rehab of the primary treatment tanks, sludge pump station, implementation of odor control technology for the primary treatment tanks. Contract B, which is significantly larger than Contract A, will include the construction of a new high-rate disinfection chlorine contact tank and pump station building, as you can see on this futuristic rendering on the left side. New connection and renovations to the existing outfall structure. So this facility, the HRD facility, will be in operation during partial treatment wet weather mode. And you can see in the bottom right with those yellow bollards, the location of the outfall 001. So this conduit from the pump station will connect to that outfall, leading to some partial closures for a segment of the shoreline trail that connects Unity Island Park and Freedom Park. There are also a number of gates throughout the bypass and control chambers and the bypass structures that will be replaced. When this project was originally bid earlier this year, that included Gate 17, which essentially controls flows from the primary treatment system to the secondary treatment system. That Gate 17 is in urgent need of replacement. And so one change for Contract B is that Gate 17 replacement will no longer be part of the Contract B rebid. That Gate 17 will now be performed under a separate contract to be advertised much earlier than Contract B in summer of next year. So the decisions will be made on how Gate 17 will be advertised, but that'll be coming out separately from Contract B now. I do want to note an acknowledgement of the size of this contract, just based on the opinion of probable construction cost, and aware of the opportunities that we want to provide to smaller contractors and minority women business-owned enterprises and disadvantaged business enterprises, that we will look at and explore the potential to break down this contract into multiple contracts, with the opportunity for larger contractors to bid on the individual breakdown of these contracts. But we do want to maximize competitive bids. We don't want to price out some of those smaller contractors that have a smaller bonding capacity. So the overall construction cost is estimated at 60 to 70 million, but we will explore opportunities to advertise this in a series of smaller contracts and evaluate whether it's the best route to award bids for the smaller contracts or just the single contracts, similar to what we did for A and B. A few additional details on the HRD pump station. I won't get too much into details here, but this presentation will be made available after this meeting is complete. 540 MGD submersible pumps, 60 MGD capacity, 3 chemical storage tanks for the sodium hypochlorite. Next slide. Some dimensions on the chlorine contact tank. We're aiming to achieve a 5-minute contact time for that improved effluent discharge into the Niagara River. Here you can see the size and the layout of that influent to the HRD conduit. And then the effluent conduit that's connecting from the HRD facility to the outfall 001 structure, and some of that encroachment onto the shoreline trail. So a portion of this scope will include the connection to and the repairs of outfall 001. And this slide is just to show you from a scope of work standpoint. Here's what the potential schedule of quantities will look like for the various work areas. A lot of general construction work occurring with dewatering, excavation, and concrete, instrumentation and controls, and connecting the HRD system to the Bird Island overall instrumentation and control system. So there will be coordination with Emerson required, and then various allowances for site work as listed here. Summary of major work and coordination items for the primary treatment renovation contract, contract B. I mentioned some of this already with the deep excavation and the watering. Construction of the new facility itself and the delivery of the large pieces of equipment through the North Gate. Coordinating shutdown for a portion of the shoreline trail to facilitate the connection of that HRD conduit to outfall 001. The instrumentation and controls coordination. And then when we're talking about the equipment and the schedule coordination, just some of those big, long lead items, those large HRD pumps, the motor control center, the various control panels, and the new wastewater control gates throughout the bypass and control structures. So to this point, we focused on the upcoming projects in 2024 and 2025. And as I mentioned at the top of this call, we will continue to have open house info sessions in the future as additional projects are in the pipeline over the next decade. But just so folks are thinking about it, some of the future construction projects as it relates to the weir modifications, drop shaft modifications, upsizing underflow pipes, future offline storage projects. Several of us attended a community meeting and environmental impact statement hearing on the East Delavan sewer project. So that's in the very early stages as a design option has not yet been selected, but that is on the radar for upcoming construction opportunity. The primary treatment renovation is phase 2 of 3 of some large upgrades at the facility. Phase 3 is the secondary system expansion, which currently started design. And that project for phase 3 will be adding additional treatment capacity on the back end to ultimately get Buffalo Sewer to 560 MGD wet weather treatment capacity. And then Rosie talked a bit about at the start the green infrastructure work through Rain Check 2.0. So just a list of some of the projects, construction projects in the pipeline to support the green infrastructure program. All right, so getting into some of the expectations as it relates to both professional services on the consultant side and construction bid and advertisement. I think it's important to communicate the types of skill sets that we're looking for on these various projects. This is while the ultimate goal is focused on clean waters and CSOs and wet weather. This is not just civil engineering. In addition to civil engineering, we're looking at the types of skill sets needed are structural, geotechnical, HVAC and plumbing, experience with deep underground storage tanks and tunnels and pipes, green infrastructure and landscape design and landscape architecture, as well as building architecture, energy efficiency, where we're looking at our process and pumping systems. Although the program, this Queen City Clean Waters program, led by T.Y. Lynn Arcadis and J.M. Davidson, we have our own community engagement and placemaking team led by our partner Hallmark Consultant. We are expecting design consultants for the individual projects to take a role and a leadership on the community engagement and educational materials for those individual projects. And when we're thinking about the funding required to support the Queen City Clean Waters Initiative over the next 10 to 15 years, expertise in grant writing and funding support is definitely going to be a key element of those strong individual consultant teams. And we need to get creative about the funding that's available on both on the federal, state, and private landscape. And then keeping this top of mind, this goes in both the professional services and construction contracts. A meaningful and intentional inclusion of local workforce, diverse suppliers, and your plan to grow the local contracting community here in Buffalo. That's definitely part of the economic investment and benefits that we want to see in the city of Buffalo. And on the construction side, beyond the general mechanical and electrical contracting that's typical for these types of projects, equipment suppliers, instrumentation, concrete excavation, that site work, traffic control, particularly for our collection systems projects, document management, gate installation, testing and inspection, surveying and utility verification, utilities that have been installed 80, 90, 100 years ago may not always show up or show up accurately in the as-built that we have. Trucking and material procurement, environmental health and safety, including hazardous materials testing, soil disposal, air and noise monitoring. And then, as I mentioned, on the professional services side, just as important on the construction side is the growth, inclusion, and partnership of local workforce and diverse suppliers and subcontractors. So on the professional services side, if you've not seen a Buffalo Sewer Authority RFP before, the old ones are posted on those on the website. But with some of the RFPs that are coming up, particularly for the Sidney Lark, Edison Martha offline storage tanks, for example, typical proposal components will include the cover letter, the overall project approach, your team experience, and project resumes that show your experience with similar type projects. The Buffalo Sewer team is going to want to learn more about your professional team, which will include the organizational chart of your team, resumes, company profile, and that includes not just the prime firm presenting, but the partner consultants. And so we want to see that DBE and MWBE plan. What's that plan looking like? We're expecting not to see a plan where you figure it out later, but the expectation is that you're building those partnerships leading up to and during the proposal development. And then the cost proposal. Typical proposals or qualifications based. And so the technical proposal is submitted in a separate envelope from the cost proposal, but cost ultimately does get taken into account. But first and foremost, it's about the qualifications of that team. And as it relates to the evaluation criteria, the Buffalo Sewer team is going to want to see a demonstrated understanding of the project requirements, the technical and creative quality of the proposed approach. And that includes the team's approach to community engagement and how you're maximizing social impacts from the project. And so we want to see what your strategy is on both the technical nuts and bolts side, but as well as the social impact side, just as important. Many of these projects are under administrative order and consent decree with DEC. And so these projects have tight schedules. We want to see what is your approach to delivering that project on schedule, ahead of schedule. Experience with comparable projects, your professional team organization, the company profile, and then we're going to want to see the the minorities, individual minorities, women, and MBE, DBE, and WBE firms as a percentage of the professional team. So that evaluation criteria that'll be distributed into various percentage points. That all adds up to 100%. And then for select projects, teams will be shortlisted and they may be asked to come in for interviews. Typical requirements for construction bids. There's the bid package itself with the bid sheets, equal employment opportunity forms, a non-collusive bidding certification, your insurances, including owner's protective liability insurance, a list of your subcontractors that you intend to use, and very, very important, on the construction bid packages, it is expected that contractors include a DBE and MWBE utilization plan. And if you're not meeting those goals, there is a multi-point list of what good faith efforts are. If you're not meeting those goals, visit the DEC and EFC site, what that looks like. But if bid packages do not include the DBE and MWBE utilization plan, they will be deemed incomplete. Okay, so I've mentioned this several times about supplier diversity and the meaningful inclusion of disadvantaged minority and women business enterprises, and certainly want to acknowledge service disabled veteran-owned businesses as well. But for DBEs and MWBEs, they must be certified in New York State. And on typical Buffalo Sewer contracts, the DBE goal will be 20%. And MWBE goal will be 30%. What governs DBE and or MWBE? Well, that depends on where the funding is coming from. But we want to see good faith efforts to not only meet those goals, but exceed those goals. And additionally, MWBE certification in Erie County is a plus. So why do we do this? Why is this meaningful? Well, for a number of reasons. We want to create economic opportunity for DBE, MWB, EE firms, as well as in general small business enterprises, including firms who are new to working with BSA and or the city of Buffalo. We want to see meaningful teaming arrangements, mentorship for some of those smaller firms that are getting started up and engaged in Buffalo Sewer Authority work, and we want to see transparent partnership between established, experienced firms and new and smaller firms from a mentor protege standpoint. So for those that are new in getting their certifications or are looking at the process and how to do that, there are a variety of resources available to get registered as a DBE, MWBE, SDVOB, or in general, just a small business enterprise. These are all links that are available that'll connect you to the various programs to learn how to get certified, to stay in compliance. But I think, Jamie, it'd be a great opportunity to share from your experience as a WBE and DBE certified firm in both the state and Erie County of what that experience has been like for you getting started up and starting up a small business, as well as that ongoing certification to stay certified as a small business.
Sure. Thanks, Walt. So as Walt mentioned, my firm, JM Davidson Engineering, we are a certified WBE in New York State and Erie County and City of Buffalo. And then also we are a DBE in New York State. I first went through this process back in 2015 when I was setting up my business. I will say we are very fortunate in Western New York to have the Erie County City of Buffalo Joint Certification Committee. I actually went through the WBE certification process locally with them first. It's the same exact process that New York State uses, but it was really nice to be able to submit that application locally. They do pull you in for an in-person interview and to kind of go through that back and forth in person. It was a very actually quick and fairly painless process to get through that. And then once I had the Erie County City of Buffalo Joint Certification Committee certification, it was very easy to take that application then and move on to New York State. The Erie County certification is good for 3 years, and every 3 years we have to resubmit updated financials and just various information about the types of projects that we're working on, and that has been a fairly easy process to go through. New York State, when I submitted there after getting the Erie County certification, it is a lengthier process to get their review. There's typically a lot of questions that come up through New York State. Our initial certification took about 9 months, I think, even after we had the local certification. And we just went through a recert. I think the recertification took about a year and a half to get through and back and forth. So New York State would ask some questions and we'd provide some additional information. The good news with this state certification process is that it is a 5-year certification. So we have 5 more years now before we need to go through this again. Everything is also available online for that process, which makes it a lot easier to submit your information and track how things are going and also follow up on it. Once we had the WBE certifications in place, we did ultimately get a DBE certification through NFTA. That was also done locally. We went in for an interview in person locally, and then they also came out and did a visit to our office. Every year with NFTA, once you have a DBE, you do need to do an annual recertification. That is, again, just really providing updated financial information. It is a very straightforward process. Also, that is all done online as well. So it's pretty easy to take care of that in a timely manner. I will say that having both the WBE and DBE certifications has been instrumental in getting our business off the ground. So the first project that we actually ever did as a WBE firm was for Buffalo Sewer Authority. It was the Smith Street real-time control structure, and we worked as a subconsultant to GHD on that. Buffalo Sewer has been really, really supportive of M's and W's and DBEs, and we really appreciate them putting forth these goals that has allowed our business to grow. Actually, we went from a business of 1 in 2015 to now we are at about 22 employees. So it has been a great experience for us. I'd also just offer up, if anybody on this call does have any questions or would ever like to talk through the process, if you have more specifics, I'd be more than willing to talk with you one-on-one. So feel free to reach out. I'd love to be able to help and share our experiences and hopefully make your process even smoother. Back to you, Walt.
Thank you, Jamie, and always great to hear of your story of your growth and development. And it's been a pleasure working with you and getting to see that from afar. So thanks for providing that experience, but also making yourself available as a resource and a contact. Some additional resources, particularly with events coming up. Next week is the Buffalo Niagara MWBE Training Day Conference. This is not a Buffalo Sewer event, but this is actually organized through New York State Empire State Development. So some information there on the event timing, where it's at, and how to register. Another event, a multi-series event, is MWBE certification sessions. And this one is held at the Innovation Center at the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus. So spanned over several weeks. In the evening, you can scan the QR code to register, and space is limited. And the event is free. All right. Another event hosted by the Exchange at Beverly Gray in East Buffalo, starting in early 2025. Weekly Wednesdays series event on getting certified as an MWBE. Applications are currently open, but it is worth noting that each applicant needs to go through the interview process to confirm they meet the qualifications. So if you aren't following the Exchange at Beverly Gray on their social media channels, I know they're very active on LinkedIn, please do so, as I expect them to release more information on this event soon. And then for small business resources in general, just getting your business organized as it relates to a business plan and growth, funding resources. To get started as a business, you need startup capital. You need a strategy to hire and recruit. What does that investment look like as it relates to having a brick and mortar office and facility. So through Buff State, they have the Small Business Development Center. So I encourage you to check out those resources. Next slide. And then in addition, they have strategies on small business startups, getting your organizational leadership structure together, accounting, financial planning, cost analysis, connections to loan information to get that financial backing, HR resources as it relates to your employees with employee training as well, and much, much more. So highly encourage you to check out that resource available through Buff State. All right. A new element through Queen City Clean Waters, through Buffalo Sewers, commitment to equity and social impact in communities is through a upcoming community benefits program. So through Queen City Clean Waters, formerly known as the Long-Term Control Plan, Buffalo Sewer has spent and will be spending millions of dollars each year building and maintaining the infrastructure to provide wastewater treatment, manage CSOs, and to protect our waters and to protect public health. BSA's Future Community Benefits Program, through strategic community partnerships in Buffalo, is being created to help deliver social impacts beyond those immediate capital and maintenance projects. So the mission of this community benefits program is to ensure that large-scale BSA construction and professional services contracting is leveraged to deliver positive economic, environmental, social impacts for the residents of Buffalo Sewer's service areas. So firms contracting with BSA will be encouraged to assist in nonprofit activity and civic activity in the community through several focus areas, which I'll mention briefly via financial, in-kind contributions, volunteering, or more. And the goal of this community benefits program is to increase health, equity, and sustainability throughout our community, and to partner with community organizations from a capacity standpoint that are already doing this work. And so BSA's upcoming community benefits program will provide an opportunity for its contractors to engage in corporate social responsibility and support our communities. Those potential focus areas will include workforce development, economic development, education, particularly in K through 12, college, vocational schools, and then partnering with organizations as it relates to community and environmental health advancement. So be on the lookout for more information on the community benefits program, which we aim to start in 2025. There'll be the expectations of that community benefits program will be included in both the RFPs and the bid advertisements of those starting in 2025 for those future contracts. But we also understand that it'll be a learning process of what compliance looks like. So once that is established and up and running, there will be a number of listening sessions to educate the community, our residents, and the contracting community about the goal of the community benefits program and how we'll be working side by side our soon to be formed stakeholder advisory committee for Queen City Clean Waters. So with that, that'll conclude the formal portion of our presentation. Now is the opportunity for question and answer. I do see a few items put into the Q&A in the chat. And so as you're thinking about any questions, I'm going to run through and respond to some of the comments that have already been left. So first question, will these slides be made available following the meeting? And the answer to that is yes, as well as the recording. A copy of the slides and the recording will shortly be made available on the Buffalo Sewer Authority website. All right, now going into some other questions here. Okay, first question I see are SDVOB, Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Businesses, included in disadvantaged businesses. Thank you, Rosie, for answering that. I'll just recite that. So SDVOB businesses are always encouraged to bid and submit proposals for BSA work. For some projects, there will be specific SDVOB goals under the New York State funding guidance. SDVOBs may qualify under the federal disadvantaged business criteria, but they would require the DBE certification to do so. And as always, Buffalo Sewer is going to continue to explore, what goals should be set for a variety of disadvantaged businesses for self-funded work. Next question, and this is related to the primary treatment renovation project. Will the HRD portion of the contract include new chlorine chemical dosing systems? And the answer to that is yes, for not just the construction of the chlorine contact tank, but the chemical storage tanks, as well as the metering systems. That'll all be included in the primary treatment renovation contract B. Will security services be needed at any of these sites? Rosie, I want to turn that over to you to answer. Yeah, you want to answer that one?
It's not anticipated at this time that there will be specific security needs for any specific project. However, our facility is a secured facility, and it may be necessary for some of the larger projects, especially if we need to store large amounts of materials on site to have security presence.
Thank you, Rosie. Next question, can a company count towards both WBE and DBE goals? And the answer to that is yes. So I do want to note that while a DBE can qualify as a WBE may not necessarily qualify to be certified as a DBE. As you're putting together your teams, if you're a prime or as a WBE, you're curious if you're certified, if your certification is up to date as a DBE, you can do a search on the New York State website. There are separate search pages. A link to that is provided on one of the slides. But the short answer to that is yes. A company can count as an MWBE and a DBE. Next question, are some of these projects going to need noise, air, and other environmental studies? And the answer to that is yes, potentially. Depends on the project. Next question, and this is the last question I see as of now. Will multiple contracts potentially be awarded? For example, are you looking for fully formed teams for each project, or will you be selecting multiple proposals potentially to provide services across multiple projects? As I'm reading that, my answer to that we're looking for fully formed teams for each project. So let's take Sydney and Lark OLS, for example. We're expecting to see a fully formed team of not just the project manager and the civil engineers, but that team should comprise your structural engineer. That team should comprise your grant fundwriting expert, your community engagement lead. That fully formed team should cross multiple technical expertise. So that list that I had showed on that one side of professional services, that should all be comprised in the proposing team for the project. Sarah, is that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, excellent. Okay, I see another question that came in. Are the MWBE or DBE designations relevant to different funding sources for work? Answer to that is yes. Depending on if a project is funded through the state, through DEC, MWBE is often the governing goal. If there's federal funding involved, for example, through bipartisan infrastructure law, which is administered through New York State EFC, Environmental Facilities Corporation, then DBE will likely be what will be adhered to. But for RFPs, we do want to see the goals met for DBE and MWBE, regardless of the funding. For construction contracts, that may differ. Okay. I see another question related to regulatory. Will the program management team be leading discussions with DEC and EFC regarding approvals and funding for individual opportunities? And let me see. A key success factor for this plan will be strong partnerships and prompt responses from regulators. My answer to that, and Rosie, feel free to add on if I miss anything, is the program management team will be very much involved with supporting Buffalo Sewer in discussions with DEC and EFC. To start, we're looking at incorporating a program management information system software that'll help us evaluate and track the progress and status of all projects, and not just from a project completion standpoint, but in terms of project schedule, in terms of money spent on the design and construction side. We would expect that those individual consultants working on the future projects be working with Buffalo Sewer and the program management team to facilitate those discussions. But the program management team, T.Y. Lynn, Arcadis, and J.M. Davidson's team will be much more regularly involved from a big picture standpoint to communicate to DEC and ESC that we have a plan, we're on schedule, we're meeting our compliance items, and even from a community engagement standpoint, from a public participation standpoint, we're bringing the community in to that journey.
And just to add on to that, as we enter a new phase of regulatory enforcement, there will be penalties involved in these contracts to ensure that we are meeting those deadlines. However, there is also ongoing discussions with those regulatory agencies regarding the need for their own assistance in meeting those deadlines, and that involves timely comments on plans.
Agreed. Next question. Just for clarification, the anticipated bid dates that were listed on the slides were those anticipated construction bid dates or anticipated RFP dates for consulting and design services. Aria, can we go to that? Can we go to that slide just for an example, one of those tables? So it depends on the project. So for example, for Sydney and Lark, that type of contract will be design. So that'll be an RFP coming out in Q4 2024. For the Breckenridge Street CSO project, for the raw wastewater and settled wastewater, that'll be a construction project. So depending on the type of contract, the program management team will be involved, or other consultants may be involved in bringing the design to a certain point. We may take the project to full design and put it out for bid advertisement. And so if you look at that column, and this goes for the collection system slide as well, for the type of contract, that will correlate to the date of bid advertisement. And then next question, our company currently provides 811 call locating to Buffalo Sewer. Will private utility locating also be required for construction work? How can we participate in this work? Would it be a subcontractor and a construction RFP? Answer to that is yes. Utility verification is certainly part of the scope. Okay, I don't see any more questions in the comment in the chat. I'll put it out there as a last call. Okay, all right. I see another question here. Slide 29 shows a number of future construction projects. Have project teams been identified for the pre-construction design services those efforts. So let's go to slide 29 here. So the project teams have not yet been identified for those efforts, for all of these efforts. Some projects are in the very early conceptual phase, like East Delavan, for example. Phase 3, secondary system expansion. There's already a design engineer that's leading that design. So the larger contract and communities involvement on the secondary system expansion would be on the construction advertisement side. Some of these projects, like those that have a date for the SPPs for 2027, those have not yet been conceptualized. So it really depends. So for this list, when we have our future open house, some of these may be a design opportunity and others may be a construction opportunity. And if we can go to the closing slides, please, as we await any questions coming in. Okay. Are MWBE firms who are part of the program management team able to participate on design teams proposing for the RFPs? In general, yes. But if we foresee any potential conflicts of interest, that'll be communicated per RFP or bid advertisement. All right, so we'll still open it up to some questions, have a few closing slides here in terms of contact information. Any additional questions that come through after this meeting, you can reach out to myself, the program director, or our program manager, Eddie Doku. I want to thank Jamie Davidson. Contact information isn't on this slide, but certainly more information about getting certified as a small business enterprise. Jamie's not hard to find. I can also provide her contact information if you reach out to me. A thank you to Rosie from Buffalo Sewer for your time and guidance and leadership. I also want to acknowledge with the extensive community engagement and partnership work that we're doing through the projects, but also through the community benefits program, the formation of the stakeholder advisory committee, the customer surveys that we've been doing, and the various other activities, just building partnerships and bringing our communities in as partners into the Queen City Clean Waters program. A shout out to Art Hall representing his Hallmark planning team. There will certainly be more information to come on what those engagement opportunities look like. All right, I did see another comment here. Curious to know why the rebid for contract B is being pushed out so far in the future, given while it was initially put out a while back. I think the straightforward reason is, we want to open it up to, more contractors and opportunities, and see what the contracting landscape looks like a year from now. All right. Okay, so just to recap, to stay connected with Buffalo Sewer, best source of information as it relates to consultant, contractor, and supplier opportunities is on the Buffalo Sewer Authority website for construction updates by individual project. If you go to the Buffalo Sewer website, there are individual project pages for those projects that are currently ongoing. We have a Queen City Clean Waters page that'll continue to grow and expand, including a future interactive real-time website that is currently under development, board meeting minutes, public participation plans open for comment. And then lastly, staying connected through BSA's various social media channels. The Buffalo Sewer engagement team is extremely active on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, as well as Threads, coming around to the times here for our younger generation. So throughout all those mechanisms, sharing information on contracting opportunities, community events that we hear about, including the MWBE workshops coming up, for example, that are being organized by the community partners in the city, various opportunities to stay connected. And I'm personally looking forward to continuing to have these open house info sessions, as well as future opportunities to get our contracting community to network, elevating our small firms, and work together to advance an equitable water future for City of Buffalo and Buffalo Sewer Authority. So with that, I don't see any other questions. If you do have questions, please don't hesitate to contact myself and Eddie, our program manager. I want to thank you all for your time, the tremendous turnout. Be on the lookout for the website posting of the slides and the recording, as well as we'll distribute to everyone that's registered the attendance list and the responses from those RSVPs. So that'll be distributed in the coming week, and we just look forward to hearing more from you and working alongside our partners in the city. So with that, thank you all for your time and attention, and I look forward to connecting with you in the future. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.